Okay, y'all. I don't know how in the world I'm supposed to go after that. Because I just ain't funny. I thank you for doing that, sir. I do. I was raised in Tennessee, or they attempted. And I think there's a lot missing from our culture these days. I think there's a lot of simplicity that we could be laughing at and enjoying and wrapping ourselves around like that and laughing about the way things are each day. And I think we've lost a little bit of our sense of humor. And in a hee-haw kind of way, I want to say thank you for letting me be here to witness what you brought in tonight. Because I'll never have the kind of qualifications you have, sir, and that's obvious by your uniform. And I'll certainly never be able to tell a story like you can. I guess if someone's foolish enough to give me a microphone, the first thing that I want to say, I don't want to wait until the end, I want to say God bless America. I think we're getting away from that too. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I love my country. I'm an American. If you don't know anything else about me, know that. And if you don't remember anything else I say tonight, know that I love you. I do. We don't know each other, but I love you because you represent the best that we have in our culture, in our nation. And any service that I've rendered for this country, any sacrifice that I've undergone in the service of this nation and freedom itself, it's validated by what I see in service here in this room tonight, because I can't even fathom the amount of service being done around the state by people like you. And I don't take it lightly because I know a little bit about what you do. I did join the military in 1988. And to be honest with you, I thought they were going to turn me into Rambo. That never happened. After a couple of years, I wound up going into Special Forces, and I slipped through the cracks somehow and wound up with a funny green hat on my head. If you were a victim of my breakout session earlier, will you raise your hand? In fact, stand up. Please. Please. The reason I want these folks to stand up is because when they were in front of me today, I had a good idea about what I wanted to present in a professional development format. And when I saw their response to me and what I was saying, it turned into something emotional for me that I didn't plan for. I didn't count on it. Okay, sit down. I appreciate you all. I appreciate everybody here. And today I realized I've been waiting 10 years to get here. I can explain. Having joined the Army in 1988, I went on through my career as a Special Forces medical sergeant. And as an SF medical sergeant, we're responsible for surgery, anesthesia, trauma management, labor and delivery, all the things that a doctor might do. Certainly not to that skill level, but to be able to function in the absence of a doctor to a degree in those capacities. And I wasn't prepared for that. And it was a steep learning curve. Somehow I made it through because a lot of people helped me. But then when I wound up on that job, I wound up going with the United States military, with the United States and her interests overseas to do a job. And I learned so much about what my country is made of. And I realized that our history from the beginning of the United States of America, we've always gone other places to fight. You realize since the Civil War, we haven't fought here? We're always going other places. Why would we do that? Why are we fighting? Is it out of anger or vengeance? Well, I want to make the case that that's not true. We fight for entirely different reasons than some might think. And as a member of the Special Forces and the military overall, and having been involved in more overseas operations than many I know, I know that it's America's love and compassion that drove that train, that compels us and always has in our history to go other places and support other people. We may not speak their language. We may not understand their culture. Their culture may not even be legal in our country, right? But we are still interested in peace and stability and freedom. See, the only legitimate freedom comes from our Creator, not other men. And in the same token, our Creator is the only one that can legitimately take that freedom away. But there are evildoers, there are evil men on this earth that will attempt to take that away, and they will oppress other men. It's always been America's job to stop that nonsense. I feel so proud of that. I feel so proud to be a part of a culture that is willing to serve something bigger than itself, and to serve it beyond sacrifice when it's necessary. And I think in each one of us we have to make that call. In each one of us we have to make that decision to serve something bigger than ourselves. And inherent to any life in uniform, you're going to wind up serving it beyond sacrifice. I don't intend to lecture anyone here tonight about that, because I'm no expert. I'm not an expert on anything. And I don't presume to come and tell you what you are or who you are. But then again, for a guy like me, I've never addressed the EMS before. I've never spoken to EMS. But I should have. I've been wanting to for a long time. So what would give me the right to sit here and tell you I know who you are? Most of the time you'd come to a place like this and they want to tell you, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we represent, and this is how we do it. And by the way, we've got a couple other programs going on. You know what? Right now I'm not even interested, because I'm going to tell you who you are. I'm going to tell you what you are. You're the fabric of America. You're the safety net that we have. And you put yourself in dangerous situations. You give up so much to do what you do and spare people life and limb. You spare people from hardships immeasurable by putting yourself in the fray. And I just, first of all, before I say anything else, I just want to thank you. That's why I love you, because I love my country. I almost gave it all fighting for this country. I almost died doing that. And so I feel like I'm invested in this country, and it's so important to me. But now I'm on the bench. After 23 years, I'm retired. And I'm not medically qualified to do a lot of the things I thought I would do next. So what do? I sit on the bench here and I wonder, what is the sum of my service worth? Is it my job now to go sit in a VFW somewhere and drink my face off and cry on my buddy's shoulder talking about how nobody understands? Is that my duty as a citizen and a veteran and a warrior? I don't think so. You see, for me, after I got wounded, I had to make a choice. I had to make a decision. And the identity crisis came because I was in a wounded soldier ward with dozens of guys just like me. A lot of them getting hurt worse. And I don't know how to compare scars in those situations, because you can't. You can't even see them all. But when the wounded warrior thing came about, I had to make a big choice in my own life, and I had to decide which one I am, because just like military intelligence, the two cannot coexist on the same plane. And I had to decide, am I wounded or am I a warrior, because I can't be both. Wounded is not an acceptable identity for a human being, and it should never be a destination that we're okay with. See, that's sympathetic, and it's not a fair identity for a human being. I'd rather be known as a warrior. And I can't be called a victim because I volunteered. And I didn't volunteer for the French army, so I knew there might be a fight. You see, if we adopt a life of service, as you all have, and as I did, you realize that there's going to come a day when it's going to cost you dearly. You have to realize that, or you haven't accepted the full ramifications of what you're about to do. Why would you run toward danger? Why would you put yourself in that situation? Have you asked that question lately? Have you answered that question for yourself lately? You see, my commitment was tested from the moment I got off that bus and the drill sergeant was whooping my tail. I didn't think he could do that legally. What are you doing to me? My daddy don't even treat me like this. And then I remembered that I volunteered. Oops. Then it got progressively worse through my career. And I put that green beret on one day and I realized, wow, they actually let me through this program. I don't think I should be in this standing, in this status. Because the fear that overtook me in the moment that I had to wear that. And you all wearing uniforms, by the way, you all look great tonight. I mean, great. Thank you for putting that stuff on. Thank you for wearing it proudly. Because that's the backbone of our country, is service itself. And the way you present yourself. You're our guardians. And I don't know, I wish my son was here to see you. That's what I wish. So if we're going to live in a life of service and answer the question of commitment, why am I doing this? Because there's stuff I could do that would be less dangerous and I could make more money. But then I wouldn't have the identity. I wouldn't have the purpose in my life. I wouldn't be a servant to this degree anymore. And to me, that's not acceptable. I want to be responsible for the maintenance and the caretaking of something so great as America. And there may be people today driving through Starbucks and McDonald's and they're ordering a venti latte and everything's right in the world. Or they're ordering a 99-cent cheeseburger and it doesn't come out right. So they go in raising hell talking about missing the pickles. We've become arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. And there's problems going on that the average person doesn't see every day, but you do because you're going into homes. You're going into places that no one else wants to go. When there's things that no one can bear to look at, you're the one addressing the situation. And you're hoping that your own humanity is strong enough willed to not address the situation wrongly. And you're hoping that your training will allow you to identify the life-threatening wound first, even though the blood spatter looks terrible. I understand these things. I understand what you go through, but sometimes I don't understand why you do it. Are you stupid? I want to know if you've asked yourself that question lately. Why are you doing that? Our commitment is going to be tested more and more as we go. And there are several reasons for that. It can be current events. It can be the advent of active shooters and terrorism, which, by the way, is narrowing the margin between what the military does and the environment that you'll be operating in. So we're seeing a convergence here. Those two things are coming together because the warfare that's going on overseas is coming to a town near you. It's not going to be long. And so don't underestimate the importance of training. Don't underestimate the importance of team building. Never underestimate the importance of leadership. And leadership is critical to all of us in this. Leadership, the military defines it as the way a person influences others to accomplish an objective, providing purpose, direction, and motivation. And that may be no different for anybody. Really, it's the same for someone working at Burger King, right? If the boss tells you to go across the parking lot to the walk-in freezer and bring back a bag of onion rings for the fryer? Well, that's an objective clearly stated. And it's your job to follow those instructions, right? Well, what's different about military, law enforcement, and first responders, there might be gunfire in the parking lot. Are you still going to get the onion rings? You see, in this line of work, sometimes we have to overcome our own fear of dying to do what we're asked to do and to follow instructions. And that's a different brand of leadership altogether. We have to command the kind of respect that indicates our subordinates will do, our teammates will follow. That's hard, to overcome your fear of dying. When you look at a situation, and no matter how you think the scene is safe, you never know. You never know what's going to unfold next. And that's the nature of the business. So while you understand that and you see an instability where others might not from their vantage point, you're still required to do what you got to do. Is the scene safe? That's the funniest question I've ever been asked. Is the scene safe? And that's some kind of sick joke almost. We don't know what's ahead of us. We never do. It wouldn't be an accident if we knew it was coming. But that's the nature of the business we're in. And what I want to talk about is the human element that I got off on today, and I didn't mean to in the breakout session. How can we be strong and resilient, doing what we do, facing what we face? And after years of conflict exposure in my life on the A-team, in places where everything wanted to kill me, it almost did. It killed people around me. It caused me to have to kill people. It's horrible. It's terrible to see those kinds of things and to live through that. And you're putting yourself in that kind of exposure. Again, I'm not sure you're so smart. Why do you do it? Have you asked yourself? Have you answered the question lately? We all need you to. In the end, at the end of the day, we all know why we do it. We all have great reasons. It is the right answer. But we better start facing some realities about it. Our emotion going forward is going to decay if we don't do good self-maintenance. And as we get exposed to this kind of stuff, are we training from the perspective that we're tough and we're the responders so we can handle anything? Or do we have the perspective that we are human and we might be negatively impacted by some of this stuff? Do we think we're tough guys? Or have we been tested already and we know better? Very important questions to ask. Because when you face some of these challenges that you might not have seen before, and I asked the question today, has anyone ever witnessed tears at the scene of an accident? I think pretty much everybody. How about tears from a responder? Have you seen a first responder crying? How about a seasoned veteran first responder crying? Well, isn't it natural? So why would we train and prepare from the perspective that we're infallible and tough and strong? In combat, I learned a lot about human nature. And I learned a lot about these tough guys. These people who walk around acting so tough and so brave. And when I was young, I wanted to be like that. Because I didn't want to feel fear. I didn't want to be afraid. I wanted to be tough, look tough, and live tough. I wanted that. So I would follow these idiots. The truth of the matter is that they're so busy trying to convince you that they're tough. And they have certain rules. They'll never allow themselves to look or act surprised by anything because they already know everything and they've already seen it all. They'll never allow their elbows to get closer than 12 inches to their belt. And their shoulders are always back and their chest is always puffed up because they're not afraid of anything. And they have us believing that in the moment of truth, they will go in and lift the burning car up by themselves and move it out of the way. They're that hero, and they want us to believe it every day. If that hero doesn't exist, let me tell you, the person that wants us to believe they're not afraid and that they don't have any weakness and that they're good at everything and they know everything, that person is a liability to themselves and they're a liability to the team. Because it's simply not true. In that moment of truth, they've been spending so much time convincing you that they're probably drinking their own Kool-Aid now. They believe they're tough. They believe they're not afraid. And in the moment of truth, they're going to feel fear. It's going to reach them, and they're not going to know what to do with it. And it is going to have its way with them at a moment where they're supposed to be doing their job. At a moment where the team vitally needs everything that they can muster. But they will be in a fetal position in the corner. They will collapse under the pressure because they haven't dealt with the one thing that we don't train for, and that's being human. And I think it's a fault of ours that we don't prepare ourselves psychologically until bad things have already happened. And then we want to go back and fix it. We want to talk about critical stress then. But we need to be talking about it now. How do we develop resilience? How can we stay the course with what we're witnessing, knowing that it's going to get worse? Well, the first thing we can do is stop the petty crap and start really respecting each other. You see, in my opinion and in my experience, there may be someone in the room right now that you don't like. Don't look at them. Don't point them out. No, stop. What I want you to think about is the difference between absolute commonalities that we share, especially in this room, and then have a look at some of the perceived differences we have that allow us to judge one another and really not look favorably on one another. What's happening there? How could we do that when we do have so much in common with our objectives and interests? Do you realize that the person you like the least is better at some things than you are? Do you realize that that is probably the person that's going to save your butt one day? They're going to forget about all the trash you've been talking about them. And they're going to go right in and risk their own neck to save you. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be your hero. They're going to be on your Christmas card list every year. You're going to want to buy them gifts. You're going to want your children to know them. That's the hero that saved my life. But not one thing changed about that person. Not one thing. The only thing that changed was your ability to see the good in that person. It was exposed to you through this activity, through your own butt getting saved. But you were never strong enough. We aren't strong enough to love each other. We're not seeing it. We're not getting it. And it's a barrier to good teamwork. It's a barrier to good service. We're shortchanging our end customer. We're shortchanging ourselves. Because love and compassion is the reason for all this. America, we love freedom. And we have compassion for the human condition anywhere on the planet. And we go anywhere to prove that. We've done it over and over and over. I've seen it. I want to show you some pictures tonight of what we do and some images of my own experiences that have led me to believe that this is the greatest nation on the planet. I don't care who says we're not an exceptional nation. We are. This is. But I'm telling you, freedom wouldn't be worth a darn without first responders and law enforcement. All the freedom in the world wouldn't be worth a hoot if everybody was using it any way they wanted to and there was no safety net for the security of that freedom and the enjoyment of it. Because we know that people don't always live within their bounds and it causes issues and problems and injuries. Well, thank you. And to be honest with you, I'm not serving in the military anymore. I'm on the bench. So I'm a little concerned. I've got an 11-year-old boy growing up. And nowadays, I'm just a has-been. So, tag, you're it. I'm counting on you. And everybody I know counts on you. for the sanctity and the well-being of our freedom and our families within that freedom. So if you're not sure, if you're asking yourself that question, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm not making enough money. I'm not getting enough respect. Let me assure you, there's a grateful nation out there that may not even recognize it yet. But you're going to save their butt. And you're going to change their life. How many lives has each one of you affected and changed already? Can you measure that? Is there a metric for it? You could have reported people for things you saw that were illegal, that were maybe terrible, but you could see conditions that maybe caused it. And you could see that the unfolding events would allow them a learning lesson in life. There's been so many things that you've gone through. I just can't enumerate the hypotheticals. I'm thankful for what you walked through. And I know the most difficult terrain on the planet to negotiate is the human terrain. And you deal with people that hate you for no reason. They hate you because you're a part of the establishment. Don't they know you're there to save them? You deal with people that can't speak your language. You deal with people that want surgery when they don't even indicate a Barney Band-Aid. You deal with people of all walks of life in all situations. And you negotiate that terrain. And you try and comfort them no matter what's going on, because you realize that you may not be able to see the underlying cause. You realize that when someone falls and their head is bleeding, they may have fallen for a bigger reason. And you can take that any way you want. It's as deep as we are. But that's what you're looking at every day. That's what you're facing. And that takes courage. And it takes compassion. And so thank you for answering the call, because I love this country. I'm invested in it. And it's being cared for by you. I thought I knew something about service. Being a military guy, toting a gun around the world, being a barrel-chested, steely-eyed freedom fighter, or whatever. I thought I knew something about service. I thought if you looked in a dictionary, you'd see a picture of me beside the word service. And that's a joke. I've learned that the best picture of service, the best definition of service, is probably our relationship with our Creator and how we serve Him. Whatever that is for you. But faith is a higher calling. And isn't it a good concept to serve something bigger than yourself? I think so. It sets the stage for all the good works we do and everything else. And what you do, though it's a profession, is it not charitable to love each other and help each other and render aid? So if I go beyond that, what would be the next best definition of service? What would you see there? Would it be me after that? In a uniform toting a gun? No. And it wouldn't even be you as EMS, fire? Nope. It wouldn't be cops? Nope. What do you think it is? To me, it's Mama. It's Mama. If ever there were a worldly description of service above self and beyond sacrifice, it's Mama. Because she may be sick, tired, injured, hungry, doesn't matter. Nope. Mama's going to stay up all night. Yep. She's going to do anything she has to do to keep us safe and secure, comfortable, fed. Isn't that beautiful? Have we forgotten where we came from? Are we learning from the lesson Mama gave us? And are we applying that kind of love and compassion in our lives? Can we be strong enough and tough enough to apply love and compassion in our leadership? Or are we strictly worried about our image and our reputation and our legacy? Mama didn't make decisions like that. She made decisions with us in mind first. And yet we go through life not looking back, not appropriately. You see, we start off the day And there is a caregiver in our lives, particularly us men. And men, I mean no offense by this, but we are idiots. We don't even get it. Because we keep driving on and achieving out there in the world, doing what we do, and we're making waves. We're making stuff happen. And we don't give credit to the people that allow us the platform from which we catapult into the world. So much is done for us in service and support each day. So much. I mean, I like to go fishing and hunting. And just speaking for me, I'll throw it on the line. There's a trip that I take once a year. And if it weren't for one of those women in my life, I'd still have the same dirty drawers in that bag from last year. Now, am I relegating women to a position of servitude in the home? Oh no. Oh no, you see, that's not it. What I'm trying to say is that women have a capacity that we often don't for love and compassion, and it's a maternal instinct. I believe it's biological. And I think we're fools if we don't get more women into our leadership process. This is not political. This is not sexist or chauvinist in any way. I spent 23 years in the Army, 19 of that in Special Forces, with Type A males. The toughest guys from around the world. Each one of them is the toughest dude in the world. Just ask him, he'll tell you. These are people who come from all over the place, and they gotta be cocky and arrogant, or they wouldn't even try for Special Forces, right? I'm tired of swimming with sharks, praying not to bleed. I'm tired of decisions being made from a macho perspective. And so I'm proud to see the crowd I see tonight. I'm proud to see some of you I've seen tonight, ma'am. I love this team, and I love diversity, not for any stupid political perspective, not for any kind of affirmative action position. I love diversity for one reason and one reason alone. I can't be good at everything, and I need you to be strong for me where I'm not strong. So as a team, if we're going to be good leaders and we're going to have cohesion and do this job and serve our people to the best of our ability, doesn't it become necessary that we have cohesion? Isn't it necessary that we're honest with each other and maintain an integrity? Isn't it necessary that we become more intimate with each other? When's the last time you hugged somebody? Do you know it's good for you? You know it's good for all of us in a professional capacity to hug each other? Yeah, it's really good. What I'm telling you is that we can't walk around like the big tough guy trying to convince people that we're good and strong at everything. We have to be intimate enough to confess our limitations to one another. Look, I'm not good at IVs. Will you please help me? Or we can spend all our time trying to skirt that training or get training somewhere else where our team won't witness how bad we suck at it. We can hide these things all we want. Shove them in the corner. But that's a big mistake. We think it'll feel bad if people realize we're not good at something. But the good feelings come when we're strong enough to confess it. And then our friends, our teammates, our peers are put in a position to recognize that weakness and love us and adore us because we came forward with it. Because that does take courage. And then they're going to help us with everything they have. And guess what? Because you confess your limitations to them, what do you want to bet? They feel closer to you, and they'll admit what they're not good at. You see, iron sharpens iron. And we need to be sharpening each other. We need to be closer. We need to stop it with the petty differences and this intra-agency stuff that goes on. When you meet someone from a different department, a different squad, a different county, just stop it, people. Do not move another step forward with these preconceived notions that they're stupid, but we're not. That they have a bad system, but we don't. We don't operate the way that they operate. Because you know what? We can sit here and all day blame someone in an appointed position or an elected position or any position of authority over any agency. I don't care. All the way up to the President of the United States. We can blame anything we want to, but at the end of the day, it's about we, the people. How are we living? What are you choosing to do to make a difference? Have you extended yourself to someone from that squad that you hate so bad? How about showing them some love and compassion? Let them see something great. It's contagious. And if they offend us, how about we forgive them and let them see that goodness and kindness and professionalism prevail, but perceived differences in judgment don't. Because in the end, we have one objective, we have one mission, and we are one team in one fight. And I don't know about you, but I'm worried about what's coming. I'm not a fearmonger, but I have been reading sensitive secret intelligence reports for decades. I'm afraid for our children, for our law enforcement, for our first responders. I'm afraid. So we need to get our stuff together. We need to be a team. We need to be unified in these objectives. We need to be unified in our purpose and our direction and our motivation. Find that common link. Confess our limitations to one another so we can all get better together and support each other. Or else we're not going to be able to handle what's coming next, because it's big. One Sunday morning, there's going to be an ad in the newspaper, and it's going to say, JR's towing service, half off on Wednesday. The problem is, there is no JR's towing service. And they're not offering a discount. They've just given an alert to all of their sleeper cells in the city. And sleeper cells of terrorists are going to wake up and conduct simultaneous attacks on, God forbid, our schools. Are we going to be outgunned? Are we going to be out-resourced? Are we going to be outmaneuvered? Are we going to be overly surprised? How will we manage? A lot on that day, a lot in crises like that depends on your team integrity. Yes, everybody's going to snap into action, but the leadership needs to be intact, and the way we follow will need to be intact. I've seen it. I've lived through it. The most intense conflict you can imagine, and it's going to require that we love each other. Don't wait for that moment to try to figure that out. I don't want the tough guy. No, I want the tough guy to surrender. Give in to the fact he's human. I want him to confess his limitations. Give me the 98-pound weakling with a quivering boo-boo lip and a tear running down his cheek. And he's saying, I don't think I can do this. That's who I want on my team. Because he already knows he's human. And in the moment of truth, that's not something he'll have to wrestle with. Because in the moment of truth, he's already long since angry. He's embarrassed that the team saw him crying. He's ashamed that he felt that kind of fear and doubted himself moving forward. And by the time the real action starts, that's the one that's going to save the day. Because he's got all this weak frailty out of the way. He's already dealt with it. So this is what we need to prepare for. If we're going to be resilient, if we're going to be strong, we need to love each other first. We need to show compassion. We need to be honest with each other. We need to be hugging a lot more often. Bond, people. I've got some stories, I'm telling you. It's the truth. Look, okay. I flunked a dude out of the Special Forces Medical Sergeant's course. I couldn't stand it. His name was Riley Stevens. And as soon as he walked in, I didn't like him. And he started showing me one thing after another that told me I didn't want him to be a Green Beret. And I was the gatekeeper. I was the senior instructor for surgery, anesthesia, and trauma management. It brought me joy when he flunked. And I recommended him never to return. And he went out for worldwide assignment based on the needs of the Army. There he went. Well, I was applying judgment that I shouldn't have been applying, first of all. Some time went by. A colonel from the 82nd Airborne Division wrote me a letter. Said, Sergeant Stube, there's a Riley Stevens in my unit, and he may be the finest NCO I've ever had in my unit. And he credits you for his professional development. I'm like, what in the world? I hate that guy. Well, I said, sure, let him back in the program, because he didn't want to disrespect me by reapplying without my permission. And I thought that was honorable. But I wouldn't see it. I was on the way back to the A-team. At the time, this was at the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center in school at Fort Bragg. And so I went off to the A-team to go on worldwide operations. Fast forward, now I'm in Afghanistan. And we're 4.5, 5 days into a battle where we were surrounded by Taliban and the numbers over 1,000. And there was only, for the first several days, there was 2 A-teams. That's 20 guys. And we ran out of ammunition 4 separate times. And I don't care who you are, or what your training level or your experience level is, that's the time when you want your mommy. You're not tough anymore when you're running out of ammunition and you're surrounded, being shot at from 3 sides. Well, I had gone at that point almost 19 years as the medic on the A-team. And I'd done everything I could to save people and conserve the fighting strength. I failed sometimes and people died. I couldn't stop it. It hurts. It's painful. Over time, I started drinking my own Kool-Aid, thinking that it could never happen to me, because I've been around. Wrong. So, approaching 19 years in service, we're in this battle, and I'm moving up a hillside because we've got 10 dismounted soldiers that went up and over the hill on the 4th day of fighting, and they're on the military crest, the other side of the hill, and I hear the voices on the radio, and they turn frantic. About that time, a mine went off at the top of the hill, and one of our Afghan counterparts had gotten curious, and he looked in an observation position on the top of the hill. He stepped on a mine. Well, by the time he was being brought back down the hill, I got a hold of him, got a tourniquet on him, put some occlusive dressings on chest wounds, reestablished air exchange on the guy, and I set him aside in what would be a casualty collection point. I didn't know yet, but I'd be evacuated with him. My job, as I left him, was to get the gun truck with key weapon systems up to the top of the hill, because now our guys were in peril and being overcome by enemy forces. So when I tried to get that vehicle up the side of the hill, something happened. A 13 or 14-year-old boy pushed 3 numbers into a cell phone and hit send. They had a coded system for their IEDs. And when our vehicle was passing a certain mark and he hit send, it blew us up. It was 3 105 howitzer shells that detonated, and it changed my life forever. I couldn't see or hear anything. I just felt intense heat. And I had been in the top of the vehicle on the 50 caliber. But when I came to and I realized what was happening, that turret was no longer upright. It was on its side, and I was crumpled up inside the vehicle with fuel, ammunition, pyrotechnics, ordnance. All this stuff was beginning to detonate and spark and flame. And it was burning me. And I decided to get out of the vehicle. So, as I start to move out of the vehicle, this turret that I ducked down and stepped through, I leaned forward and the bootlace on my right foot got caught on a latch inside the turret. And as my weight went forward, the bones below my right knee cut through my uniform and stuck in the sand. And I fell on my face. Well, when I fell on my face, I could feel burning. I could feel just intense heat, and I could smell my flesh burning. And so I tried to reach back and swat at the flames, and then I saw what looked like kind of like a gray rope between my leg and my foot and ankle that were still in a boot. So I was able to get that loose because I wanted to take it with me. And I kept trying to swat at flames, but I couldn't put them out. The body armor that we wear was up to 80 pounds with all the gear we had on it, and it's very restrictive in movement, and I didn't know yet how bad I was hurt. But I wasn't doing any good at the flames, and the pain just kept getting worse. So I wound up face down in the sand, wondering if it was really over. About that time, I felt stinging on my face. Now, I already know my foot and ankle are about blown off, and I know I'm on fire. Why would I feel insects on my face? Well, maybe the onset of shock, eh? Well, I raised up a little bit to swat at insects while I'm on fire. And that was all I had. That was what my consciousness told me to do. When I raised up, things got serious because it wasn't insects biting me. It was specks of sand hitting me because machine gun fire was impacting all around me. So I found a new reason to crawl. Started moving, and one of those bullets passed across my right kneecap, and it opened up a big, nice wound. It wasn't one of those things that's really detrimental to life and limb, but it looks terrible, and it's very distracting when you can see all that muscle and tendon and ligament. The next one was more interesting, though. I was starting to run out of air, like falling off the swing set, and you grunt for air. You can't get. And then all of a sudden, pop! I could see dust all around me for some reason, and I heard a pop, and I could feel it. And it was a Forrest Gump wound. Something bit me in the buttock. And this one went right on through me and blew out my right front pelvis, and it lacerated my abdominal lining. And now I could breathe better. I guess it took some of the pressure off my diaphragm or something. And now I can breathe better, but I looked along my right side and I could see why. That bullet had released my intestines to pass outside my body. And I was looking at a pile of my own intestines. That's a hard day at the office. And it's not something I wanted to see. And it was a mentality that I never want to feel again, because I was frustrated, and I wanted, in my mental state, I wanted nothing more. There was nothing more important in the world than getting those guts back in. And I started trying to pull them to me. But if you've ever dealt with mesenteric type injuries, that is hard stuff to deal with. I could only pinch one piece of it, and the rest would fall away. And every time I pinch it, it felt like I was pooping. And the pain was just, terrible. Well, about that time, some very brave people approached me and started putting the fire out, and they got burns on themselves doing it. And they got me into the marijuana field beside us, where the enemy couldn't see us to shoot us. These were non-medical personnel that approached me at first, and so I had a task in front of me. I had to try and fight to maintain consciousness and direct these guys. What could I do? What could I have them do to save my own life? And it had a lot to do with hemorrhage, because I was bleeding. I needed a tourniquet really bad. So I did my best with them, and they kept saying, "Hang on, Stube, the medic's almost here." Well, sometime later, the medic finally shows up, and he comes up towards my feet, and it's the dude that I flunked out of the course. No joke, Riley Stevens. And as he's approaching, I'm thinking, oh no. And all I could muster up the strength to say was, "No hard feelings, right?" And I'll never forget the look on his face. His eyes got this big around because there was a couple things on his mind. Number one, he wasn't sure he could save me, and he desperately wanted to. Number two, he wanted to show Sergeant Stube that he actually learned this stuff and and that he could perform now to standard. And he really rose to the challenge. And I learned a lot in that experience alone. Number one, standards matter. Standards matter. If I had let him pass, not able to do those things, what might have happened? Now, we might be worried about peer pressure. We might be worried about the perception of us, being the Grinch who stole Christmas because we flunked somebody and don't let them through. But in the end, those standards matter more than we can measure at the moment. They matter to me. That guy came back as an honor graduate from the course later and saved my butt. And the next lesson that I had to learn was eating humble pie. Because if you ever told me that one of my students was better than me, I'd be very offended. I'd be offended by that. How can that little turd be better than me? I've been doing this since he was in diapers. I still smell the Similac on his breath. And we can adopt that seniority figure kind of thing. But I resent that now. Because the best compliment that I could ever get is that I helped turn someone into a better medic than I ever was. And there's so many reasons to be thankful for that. We're making the world better. We're enhancing our own survivability. That's the truth. And we need each other. Nobody's a rock. I know an island never cries and a rock feels no pain, but don't ever get that mentality that you're the seasoned veteran and you don't need anybody, because we need each other, believe me. So Riley Stevens, I met him sometime later back at Fort Bragg when I was released from the hospital for a break. And over the next year and a half, I had 17 surgeries and just a whole lot of hospitalization. And I saw Riley Stevens back at home, and he wrote his name and number down on a Post-it note for me. And I went home and put it on my office computer, and it was there in my office. But I got busy trying to rebuild my life, trying to learn to walk again, trying to whatever, and I never contacted him again. And oh wait, did I mention I hated this guy? Not anymore. Now, he was a hero. Now he was on my Christmas card list.